welcome to ArtChat. This is the number 6 episode. I am doing this series of videos to share my humble knowledge about art and all things that are connected to it. So please, if you know of anybody that would be interested in watching these videos, share. I am on YouTube, also on Facebook and Instagram. So I hope that you find this interesting, and please give me your questions or anything that you would like to tell me. I would love to answer any questions that you might have. And yeah, thanks for tuning in. Today I want to share a couple of things, and some of them are to be able to understand a little bit more once a person decides and make up their mind that they want to be an artist, make art for a living, or anything like that. So yes, I think it's important to find out what is it that you want to paint, and what is it that you want to do. In my experience, it was very interesting because I grew up in Mexico, so I grew up around that particular culture in Mexico City. So I also grew up traveling throughout Mexico with my mother. So I saw a lot of different things around, like native people, the people of the provinces in Mexico, which really wonderful exposure to that. And also I grew up seeing also my mom and my stepdad are artists too, so they were constantly painting and creating art. So that was one of the things that I was able to, that was like my early life exposure to art. But also my mom, her style is very, I might say, kind of like, she has this really cool psychedelic Mexican feel to her art. And if you would like to check it out, her name is Jade Leyva art here on Facebook. So you can check out her art if you're curious and you would like to check it out. So yeah, so the importance of having something, a thematic, a constant thing that goes throughout your work is a crucial thing, so that way people can start knowing you for a theme or something, a specific thing that you do. I think that the first exposure that I had to try to make a living with art was right before I moved to the US. I started doing paper mache figurines. My younger sister taught me how to make paper mache, and I created this one dragon that I was like the first one of many different animals that we did. My family, my sisters and my mom started doing it too. So yeah, so we did a lot of different creatures, and we were creating like dragons and like cats with wings and things like that. So we were selling them back then. I was creating like frames of paper mache, frames of a moon with a mirror in the middle for decorative purposes. So yeah, that was a really fun thing. But and then I ended up moving to the US. So for me, it took me about 9 years to find my style. I started restoring pottery with my mentor Bill Freeman in Arizona. He would hire me by the hour, and he taught me like a lot of the antiquing techniques and how to like put pots together and ancient pieces together, and how to recreate the pieces to make them, restored fully. So that was one of the things that I started with. And then I thought maybe I can transfer like the images from the pottery onto paintings, onto a flat surface. So that I started in that way. And I thought that was my thing back then. I was very young. I was about 24 years old. And then I started experimenting with different things. It just didn't feel like my own voice. And everywhere I went, like I would go to Jackson Hole. I spent some time there, like 7.5 years in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. And I remember I saw this beautiful totem pole in a museum. I had never seen one before. So I started experimenting with the designs of the Pacific Northwest, but it wasn't really my thing. It was not my culture. It was not anything, but I learned a lot about it doing this kind of work. But I was just experimenting. It wasn't anything that I really wanted to do for the long term. And then one day I ended up moving to New Mexico, and one day I just kind of woke up and thought, oh my God, I can actually just paint things that are from my own head and from my own culture and from things that I want to say. So that was my experience, and I started depicting like cultural elements from Mexico, like the flaming hearts, and also like I painted, like one of the things that I painted a lot were hummingbirds. I would paint them like at a large scale, like going into a flower, because I just loved hummingbirds. So and I still do. And then eventually my artwork started evolving. That was at the time when actually I found my style, which was about 12 to 13 years ago, maybe 14, around that. And so I started experimenting with all these different things, and finally I just decided to start expressing myself with just painting things that I wanted to say. And sometime later I also started thinking, well, I can actually paint not only the cultural elements. I was doing like lots of like large scale flaming hearts with vines coming out of them and all of that. And so I was like, maybe I can start like saying something with my artwork. So I started painting like nature, like really deeply. Like I would paint a tree, because I was always in love with nature. So I tried to paint that as much as possible. So I started painting like trees playing the violin, and with birds around them, and hummingbirds feeding their little babies, with like a really fun, like a nest with leaves growing out of them. So that way I could give everything life, and everything felt like as if it was like tangible and alive as well. Not only like it's like an image, but also something that made people think. And then eventually I started getting involved into environmental work. So that through the arts, I actually was making murals with seeds. It was a project that I created to raise awareness about environmental information and solutions. So yeah, I've offered that for communities. And so I that's when I started falling in love with bees, because we dedicated one of the murals to bees, and I was like, oh my god, these creatures are so incredible. I can't believe that one day I was afraid of them. I really was not a lover of bees before, but and then through that project was that I started learning how crucial they are to nature and to the world, like how they are actually the ones that pollinate the food systems and sustain the ecosystems more than any other creature on earth. Not only bees, of course, there's lots of different pollinators that also help that, but bees, there was something about them that really it was magical. So I started painting bees with like lace wings and making them really beautiful, so that way I could like show people like a close-up of what these creatures are. So perhaps I could inspire some respect for them. And people, I'm always telling people, please don't spray your garden, because the bees need our help. They're in a pretty large decline, and we need to like help them. And it starts in our own gardens. Also, those poisons go into like our water systems and all of that. So I always try to tell people, and through my art I try to like inspire them to be able to like respect nature more and feel more connected towards it. So that is the thing that I decided to depict. And also another thing that I do, that I incorporate into my artwork very often, is corn and native people, and people like tribal people and things like that. Because to me, the people who still in today modern world still live a tribal life, or they still live in their like either like their little towns in Mexico or in their reservations. And I think a lot of the people that live in that way, they carry the knowledge for a better future, and they can actually live so humbly, so beautifully, like off the land, even though it's a really hard life. Because a lot of the people who live in that kind of life, a lot of times they're discriminated against, and they're also marginalized. So that's the reason why I really love painting people that are native, because not only I am part native too, but I feel really connected to that part of myself. But I also feel that if I can depict the beauty and the amazing appearance of the people and their clothing and their culture, is that perhaps I can achieve a little bit more respect for them, and also like try to like depict the beautiful royal people that they are. So that was one of the things that I really wanted to do. And also the people are also really connected to corn, because that is a crop that is very strong in the place that I come from, in the Mexico City area, all of central Mexico and like the whole southern part of Mexico and some area, I mean all over Mexico, but northern Mexico they eat more flour tortillas than they do in the southern part. But in the southern part is really amazing and very traditional and very strong. Like I ate corn all the time. Every time I go back home, I my mother calls me a squirrel because I eat so much corn. I miss it so much. But so yeah, that is a crop that is not only something that is a sustenance for the native people and for the culture. It's a cultural crop, but it also has religious meaning and historic meaning and ancient meaning. And I mean, there was gods that were in the ancient times, gods that were believed that came from maize too. So there's a whole other like mystical thing that goes with it. So yeah, that's one of the reasons why I like to depict corn. So that's some of the things that I wanted to share, because I think that everybody have a journey in life. Whatever your voice might be and whatever you have been exposed to through your life is probably, like, all of those things are probably the ones that are going to inspire you the most. And try to find that voice in that place in which the things that you were exposed to, the things that you loved growing up, the thing could be an abstract painting. Maybe you grew up around modern art. Maybe I don't know, it's something that you really have to like search within you. But the importance of being constant and being disciplined about creating, utilizing like the same elements over and over and over is a very important thing to be able to create a style. So yeah, so that's one of the things that I wanted to share. I hope this information is helpful. I certainly enjoy sharing all of these thoughts in these videos. Please let me any comments that you might have on YouTube, Instagram, or Facebook. I'm here. I'm Jade Leyva Art. Thank you so much for tuning into ArtChat, and I'll see you next week. Thank you so much. Have a good day.